drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Now, I do also want to talk about some of the negative sides of being an actor. I know that, like, as a producer, a director, when we have auditions and talent comes in, they read, sometimes we give them lines to memorize, sometimes we ask for a monologue. Can you talk about your take on the whole process of auditioning and trying to get a role that you're excited about?
It's it's a lot like what other actors talked about, the pressure of like really wanting that role and walking into that that waiting room with other people waiting to audition, and you're wondering, like, what's that guy here for? And and you look around and you think, oh, well, these guys don't really look anything like me, and so it can be easy to get inside your head a little bit before you even walk into the audition room. But for me, I just try to go into it, just try to prepare as much ahead of time as I can. A lot of times you don't have that luxury, because you might get handed some sides, a couple minutes before you go into the room. And so you've got to try to, it's hard to get a handle on a character, in just a couple of minutes, and you kind of have to do the best you can, or what your interpretation of that character is. And then I just try to go in there and, give it, the most natural delivery that I can. I guess I feel like that's one of my strengths, I guess, is just sort of, a natural believability or whatever, that, it's, at least that's what I'm told, is that said, oh, it just, it seems so natural, like the dialogue and stuff just seems so natural coming out of your mouth, and sometimes that's difficult to do, because sometimes you're dealing with a script that maybe is not the greatest, and you're like, how do I make this work
Right.
for me? But there's a lot of there's certainly a lot of rejection involved too, and I've probably had as many things as I've auditioned for. I've probably had every bit as many rejections as being cast, maybe even more rejections. So it's probably, you're probably lucky if you get, maybe one out of every 10 roles, maybe one or two out of every 10 roles you audition for. I feel like that's probably a pretty accurate, number. And it's just, sometimes it's just a numbers game. It's like, you just got to keep putting yourself out there and just auditioning for anything and everything. And eventually, something's going to stick.
I wanted to tell you a story. Abby and I had an open audition one day, and we had a guy. This is the wildest audition story that I've ever that I can even tell. This is true. This guy, we're sitting in a gymnasium. All right, there's probably like 12 people there. This guy who's waiting in line is all the way in the back. There's a door that goes outside, and he's just standing there waiting for his turn. So I don't remember his name, but the lady in front of him finished her audition. She left the room. I called the guy's name out. He said, "All right, cool." And he walked outside. He took the biggest puff off of his e-cig that I've ever seen in my life. He opened the door and just exhaled, right? It looked like he was standing out there with a fog machine. This man showed up for an open audition call in a Peter Pan costume, all right? He had a sword on his back. When I called his name and he opened the door, he walked through this like haze and just kind of gracefully galloped all the way through the gymnasium and then delivered one of the worst monologues I have ever heard in my life.
But you never forgot it.
But I never forgot his audition.
Never forgot it.
It was insane. Do you find that important to try to do something memorable? I didn't cast him. He was not a good fit for that particular role, but just his presence was just, I'll never forget it. I'll never.
Yeah, it's you know, you hear stories about that all the time about famous actors who, you know, got an iconic role basically because they walked into the room doing something crazy, or they just basically walked in character, from the minute, they roll camera. So far, I have not done anything that
drastic.
dramatic yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, or drastic. Yeah, would, I guess, be a better word. Because I don't know, like you hear so many different things about that. Some casting directors like that and others hate it. Like other, like it seems like the consensus seems to be more that they really don't like that, they don't like the gimmicky, stuff. They just want to see what you look like naturally, just wearing your regular clothes, whatever. And based on your delivery of the lines and your interpretation of the character, then they start visualizing, okay, can I see this person as this character?
Mm-hmm.
Or they start, picturing you with, a different haircut, or something like that. And so I guess I kind of leave it up to the director and the casting director or whatever to determine whether they think I'm going to fit that role, instead of just trying to be that, person, from head to toe when I walk in. But I don't know, maybe it can work. It's like I said, it's worked, for other people. I now granted, some of those people were already famous, when they,
right.
So they probably had a little bit more,
right.
They had a little bit more leeway, to do that kind of thing. I mean, I heard that, Sigourney Weaver, walked into Ivan Reitman's office and basically, told him she thought that her character should be possessed by, a dog, in the movie. And she proceeded to get down on all fours and jump up on his desk and howl and everything. And he said he's like, he cast her. He thought it was like brilliant, and they actually kind of rewrote the ending of the movie to incorporate that in there, because they didn't think, because she had mostly done serious roles. They didn't think that she could do comedy, I mean, they just blew them away. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll try that, sometime. I haven't really come across a role yet, where I'm just like, oh, like I've got to have this role, like, so bad that like I'm going to do anything, to get it, to where I would go to those extremes, but who knows, maybe that's down the road at some point.
So Brandon tells me that you're a producer. You produce films?
A little bit, a friend of mine and I started a production company.
It's the